Well, your tax dollars are paying for state lawmakers to travel across the U.S. and even to other countries.
Yeah, our Oklahoma Impact team discovered that travel continued even as our state faced a financial crisis. Here's Alex Cameron with our Oklahoma Impact investigation.
Last year, legislators filed travel claims totaling $1.5 million. Most of that was getting to and from the Capitol. But $155,000 went to out-of-state trips. That's $200,000 less than in 2008, but still enough to pay the salaries of nearly 5 first-year teachers. Where were they going, and what's the benefit? Oklahoma Impact reporter Amy Lester investigates.
Legislators took to the skies, flying to Washington, D.C., Texas, Pennsylvania, Arizona, California, even to Canada and Cuba. Multiple people turned in claims for some of the same conferences, and no one had to give any proof that they actually attended while traveling on your dime. We found this out while digging through expense reports for several weeks. What we discovered will likely surprise you. In December of 2008, Senator Charles Wyrick went to Cuba with the state Secretary of Agriculture and 7 other people. The state paid for 3 of the trips, including the senators, at more than $2,000.
I have a lot of confidence in the Department of Agriculture, but one of the reasons that I was asked to go was to show, credibility that we were serious about this.
The purpose was to negotiate the sale of Oklahoma wheat, dairy animals, and other products. Why that takes 9 people, we're not sure. This was the second trip to Cuba in 4 years. The first time they sold $4 million worth of wheat. This time, no deal.
We went, we made the attempt, we made the sales pitch, but if they don't have the money and they don't close the deal, that's not in our hands.
Spending $2,000 is a drop in the bucket compared to other state senators. Senator Brian Bingman charged the state more than $7,500 for 5 Energy Council conferences. 2 were in Canada. The meetings oftentimes adjourn around noon.
We make recommendations, talk about policy, how it affects our states, other states, and we send statements to the federal government, work with them on energy policy.
In 2009, Bingman was the vice chairman of this American-Canadian energy group. He says that's why he attended so many conferences. He went to 2 while state revenue was down, and 2 when agencies faced a 5% cut.
Is there anything directly that you've done after going to these conferences that maybe people could see the benefit of?
That's probably, I'd have to think about that, but I think given the opportunity that if I wouldn't have been at these conferences, then I wouldn't be representing my state.
While representing the state in Canada, travel documents show Senator Bingman and Senator Coffey, rather than taking a $70 round-trip cab, they used a limousine service for transportation from the airport to the hotel. Only Bingman rode in the car on the return trip. Bingman says the hotel recommended it. The price tag, nearly $200.
That's frankly kind of really taking advantage of the office.
We show documents from this trip and many others to the dean of OCU's Minders School of Business, Vince Orza.
They think I'm an elected official, I'm important, and I have a right to do this. There's kind of an arrogance to being elected at some point, especially after you've been there a while.
Orza does not approve of costly decisions made by lawmakers, including this one. Senator Earl Garrison traveled to a national conference of state legislators summit in Philadelphia in July. Out of 15 suggested hotels, he chose the most expensive, the Ritz-Carlton. When we tried to ask him about it, he never called us back.
He's staying at the Ritz-Carlton. How nice of him. We should send thank you notes to all the citizens of Oklahoma.
It looks like a lot of senators could send out thank you notes. Last year, on average, they spent twice as much as state representatives on out-of-state travel. Part of that is probably because the House banned out-of-state travel while senators kept taking trips.
Senate President Pro Tem Glenn Coffey approves the trips, and he allowed them to continue while state agencies faced 5, even 10% cuts. Some of them were for staffers. In September, Senator Coffey's administrative assistant and the majority legislative director spent more than $2,000 to attend a conference in Austin for professional development to learn how to become better staffers. When we asked Coffey if this was appropriate to okay while state agencies were struggling, he told us,
I think that you still have to function, you still have to train individuals and create opportunities for them to do well in their jobs. And so, yes, I think it is.
Just 3 months ago, coffee banned out-of-state travel.
Do you feel now, when you look back, maybe we should have stopped the travel sooner?
You know, you can always revisit or rethink issues. I made the best decisions I could with the information I had at the time.
Speaker of the House Chris Bench had the same information, yet he suspended out-of-state travel for representatives 6 months earlier. Add that to the fact representatives must cover 25 to 75% of the trip's cost, depending on how often they go, along with price caps limiting reimbursements, and you can see why the House spends less per person.
I'm sure we've saved a lot of thousands of dollars in travel since that freeze was put in place.
But during the freeze, Bench took a nearly $900 trip of his own to Washington, D.C. in October, when state agencies were cut 5%. He spoke at a Congressional Natural Gas Caucus hearing to tout a new alternative energy law he authored and promote natural gas. He even exempted himself from paying the normal percentage representatives are responsible for. After all, he can do that. He approves his own travel. Senator Coffey okays his own as well.
The unique nature of being able to go before Congress and testify on something that I think was very beneficial to Oklahoma, I felt like warranted a full reimbursement of that trip.
Bench can't remember another time the House fully reimbursed a legislator, yet he and all of the lawmakers we talked to about these trips and others believe they were a good use of tax dollars. It's really up to you to decide.
What you're doing is something the legislature doesn't want to do for themselves, and that is shining a light on things they do that cost taxpayers money.
Amy Lester, the Oklahoma Impact Team.
We checked, and before the freeze, Speaker Bench had never turned down a travel request. As far as we've been able to determine, neither did Senator Coffey. We'll continue to keep an eye on this. For Oklahoma Impact, I'm Alex Cameron.
Both Bench and Coffey are still allowing out-of-state travel if it has to do with redistricting. Otherwise, there is a ban on travel indefinitely.